the most spectacular race in the world. I came to Daytona Beach in America to witness live the most important event in NASCAR history, the Daytona 500. Thanks to my special pass, I was able to document and show you all the most incredible behind the scenes of NASCAR. Those things that you don't see on the TV and no one tells you about. I will take you with me into the pits, on the grid, in the grandstands. You will get to know the most famous drivers, the most curious anecdotes. You will discover a crazy world, the incredible show they are able to create in America, and the perfect organizational machine behind it. Sit back, because this video will literally leave you speechless. Daytona Beach. It's a city in Florida, 4 hours drive from Miami, and after all it's a small town with only 74,000 inhabitants. But this race attracts 200,000 spectators. How is it possible for such a small city to host the world's biggest NASCAR race? The reason is simple. It's because it all started here, from the huge beaches of Daytona Beach. That's right, NASCAR was born here. And I'm not talking about the town, I'm really talking about the beach. Because the history of NASCAR is absurd. Just think that the first cars were sometimes used by the smugglers to escape from law. And the most important element of the story, however, is that the first NASCAR races were run on this beach. This beach has the incredible characteristic of being totally flat and having sand so fine and so beaten that it really looks like a road. So much that today anyone who wants can drive the car along it. So exactly 75 years ago, the first NASCAR race was held right here. One straight on the beach, curve, straight on the road, curve, and there's the track. That's why Daytona is so important. But anyway, do these cars by any chance remind you of the legend cars? The cars that I used to race? Yes, correct, because the legend cars were inspired by them. In 1959 then, 11 years after the birth of NASCAR, the Daytona International Speedway opened. A 3-oval, 2.5 miles long, with a grandstands that nowadays is huge, with 160,000 seats. I'm shocked about how huge is the grandstand. It's something insane. Grandstand that Sunday will be all sold out. But you will see it. Just think that the grandstand is so big that to build it, they had to take into account the curvature of the earth. And in order to build the corner, they took the sand from the lake that is inside of the speedway. So, the race weekend starts on Wednesday, which is not just any day, because today there will be the qualifying. And I'm here in the drivers' meeting room, where any media can come here and meet the drivers and ask them questions, make interviews, whatever. Okay, let's face it, because we Europeans have all the same questions in our head. What's difficult about driving on an oval where you never brake and always turn left? What's fun about doing that? And moreover, what's fun about watching it? People in Europe think that racing in ovals is boring, it's easy because you don't turn right. Yeah, sure enough, I have no problems asking. So I asked straight to the drivers. You're curious to hear the answers, right? Well, you'll get that soon, because right now I have to run to the pits because the teams are starting to unload the cars. Here are the trucks with the cars inside, and if we get into a garage, as you can see, they're not separated. It's like an open space, so each car has its own area. Yeah, because what is the best way to make sure that no team cheats? It's simple. Just put them all together in the pits, side by side, without walls, so that they can check each other out. And they do it! That's brilliant! Here are all the tools with the monitors they use to monitor the race, and they just opened the gates, so all the crew, the mechanics and everyone else, is now entering the pit lane and start to work on the cars. This previously quiet area suddenly fills with life. Everything has to be prepared quickly, because already tonight there will be the qualifying. And the first thing to do is to take the cars to the scrutineering, to check that they are in order. And do you know how they do that? Under this tent there is a laser scanner which scans all the cars in the grid. In NASCAR, all teams are obliged to buy the chassis from a single supplier, but some parts they can develop themselves, obviously respecting the measurement imposed by the regulations. And how do you scrutiny that they meet those regulations? The quickest way to verify this is by laser scanning. The cars go into the stand one by one and they are laser scanned. A software then reconstructs the 3D model in real time and measures it. If it's in the red zone, it's too big. If blue, too small. If green, it's in compliance. And if you look at the cars closely, you then notice how some parts of the body have hexagons in the paintings. Those hexagons must be there and serve as a reference paint for the laser scanners. Each scan takes 2.5 minutes per car, and one in another. Car in, car out. Car in, car out, car in, car out. And the laser scan is also streamed live on YouTube. Here there is the other part of the technical inspections. There are many stations with different kind of inspections. For example, here we have these tools which are used to check some different parts of the car. For example, sizes, angles, ride heights, the weight of the car, everything. So for example... Okay, he told me it was loud. So for example, look at the floor. It's completely flat with some aero details in the front and in the rear. I wasn't expecting that from a NASCAR. And this is not a random team. This is the oldest team in NASCAR. And this is the team who invented the pit stop. Also look at the aerodynamic of the car, which is asymmetrical. You have that wing there, which is not there, and this is because they race in ovals. But the question is, if they check the car with the lasers, why are they still controlling the car with those tools? The thing is that 2 checks are better than 1, and also you know that somebody is trying to fool the regulations, but you don't know how. So that's why they do a double check. The thing is that if some parts of the car are too narrow or too wide, the car might... Well, I was saying, the car might have an aerodynamic advantage. So that's why they put constraint that they check with the laser. So at that point, my question was, okay, your laser is scanning the car under a tent in a static situation. But what if you make a bodywork which is so soft that when the car is going at 200 miles an hour, compress it and the car goes faster? Well, here's come the tricky part. They check the car before and they check the car after the race. So if your car was fine before the race, but not after the race, there's probably something going on. So they also told me that that's where the engineers do their job. Because the best engineers can design cars that maybe flex a bit at high speeds, but that at the end of the race come back to their original shape. Just think that some people in the past were accidentally hitting the side skids to bend them and make the car go faster. Others would install the wipers even if unnecessary because they found it gave aerodynamic load. Or some people used paint that fooled the lasers. These are the fuel tanks they used to refill the car, and trust me, that's why they need a very strong person to refill the car. This car is sponsored by Guns N' Roses. Are you kidding me? I just found out that they sell special experience. For example, if you want, you can buy hot laps as a passenger or as a driver with these old NASCARs. We are here in the night for the qualifying. It's like daylight. It's impressive. So we are on the pre-grid, ready for qualifying. And how does the qualifying work? That's insane. They will do 1 by 1 2 chrono, and then we will get the classification. After that, we will know only the poleman and the driver in P2, only the first row. So what about all the others? You'll find out. Yeah, because tomorrow we will see the second part of the qualifying. But let's taste on this one for now. One at a time, alone on the Daytona Superspeedway. A track that is so long and has so much banking that the whole lap is done completely flat out. Okay, but where's the difficulty if you never lift? So I asked Travis Pastrana. Wait. That Travis Pastrana? Oh! That's the one. The #1 of motocross freestyle history, who is now racing in NASCAR for several years.
There's nothing scarier than a 1.5 mile course knowing that you're wide open and it feels like you drop from the top to the bottom. It's like a roller coaster. Your stomach goes, and when you hit with cold tires, you don't know if that car is going to go straight, if it's going to push, if it's going to snap loose oversteer. And even qualifying by yourself is one of the scariest things I've ever done. And on TV, you see nothing. And if you see anything, it's because the driver didn't catch it and they're in the wall. They're like, wow, that guy sucks. But really, you're like, I don't know what's going to, and you got to be that quick because it's 200 miles an hour and things happen fast.
He, the man used to doing deadly stunts on motorcycles, who says that doing a full-on solo ride at Daytona is one of the scariest things he's ever experienced. That made me realize that driving these cars is no joke. It gets inside you, the sound of this engine. You feel it in the chest, in the heart. Qualifying begins. The lap time is not given in time, but in speed. Because you know, in super speedways it's cooler to ride down speed. 180 miles an hour, almost 300 kilometers an hour. To be honest, I was thinking more, until they explained me that here in Daytona cars are limited to less than 500 horsepower because otherwise they will go so fast that they will go beyond safety standards. What a crazy thing to do. And it's only Wednesday. Okay, so I jumped on the tram, which is not actually a tram, it's like this, towed by a big pickup. Because here everything is huge, and trust me, in Europe we are used to see very small cars like this one. For us, here everything is huge. So I'm going to explore a little bit the paddock to see what I can find. Yes, here the paddock is so big that without the tram I would walk for 1 hour to get out. So I'm outside in the public road in front of the ticket office, and this makes me understand as a European why Americans are so good in celebrating success. Look at this. This is the walkway, and there is the Hall of Fame of all the winners of the Daytona 500. Each one of them left here their footprints, their hands, and their signature. So at some point I get behind the grandstands from where the crowd will enter on Sunday, and in this area, which will be overrun with fans and spectators over the weekend, you will find everything. Shops, cars on display, experience areas, simulators, test drives. Obviously every team has their merchandising truck outside. Yeah, because obviously here every driver is celebrated as a superstar. Every driver has his fans. Who's your favorite driver?
Chase Elliott.
And so every driver has his own merchandising. Everything here is studied to perfection. When you're about to enter, there's a line. No problem. Just walk through the stalls so you don't have to wait and have fun. After this nice walk, I take the tram back to the paddock and I realize that the drivers are doing free practice. And not just the NASCAR Cup drivers, but also the other classes, which I will explain you in a moment. I relax for a few hours as the evening falls on Daytona, and I get back to the track. I can't believe it! So, Thursday night, we're going to see the duels, which is some kind of qualifications race. So, what is that? Very simple. You split the drivers in 2 groups and have them run 2 mini races of 60 laps each. On race 1, first half of the group. On race 2, second half of the group. The results of race 1 will provide the starting position of the right row, so 4th, 6th, 8th, while the results of the second race will provide the starting grid of the left row, so P3, P5, P7. Okay, cool, but what about the pole position in P2? Well, we already know them from yesterday qualifying. And if it was already shocking to see them race one at a time, what will it be like to see them race in a group?
Hai visto che roba?
Mi ha dato un coso perché le orecchie mi ha fatto male.
Vorrei il misuratore di decibel.
It's a feeling that I never experienced in my whole life. It sounds so loud and powerful that it gets inside your bones, inside your chest, inside your heart, and makes your soul vibrate. It gets less intense when they come into turn 1, and magically the speaker's voice resurfaces. It then becomes high-pitched when they drive the opposite side, and then again distant and fainter. until when they exit turn 4, everything starts to vibrate again and the speaker again disappears. "60 laps. The gasoline is not enough. Neither are the tires. And here, therefore, each driver is scheduled for a pit stop. Each team has tires ready, labeled and marked. The fuel tanks are full, and every pit stop guy prepares physically, warming up, stretching, practicing tire change. If you thought that the only athletes here were the drivers, you were wrong, because the pit crew also are athletes. And here it's even more important than in Formula 1, because if you lose 1 second in the pits in Formula 1, you may lose 1 position. But here, where the cars are all grouped, if you lose 1 second, you lose 20 positions. And the amazing thing, which for Formula 1 is unthinkable, is that those who have media passes or VIP passes that you can actually buy can watch the race from next to the mechanics, like 1 meter away from the pit stops. And I experience a thrill that I never experienced in my whole life. So the first phase of the race was a study phase. The last laps, however, are a total war. And like in every oval, the photo finish. The winner is celebrated in front of the grandstands. And then we're back for the second duels. Once more, dueling, pit stops, crashes, overtakes, and the qualifying races are over. I'm once again speechless. So, I saw this car, crowded of cameramen and journalists, and I asked, who's that guy? So why are they interviewing him if the winner is down there? The thing is that in these races, there are some drivers who are already qualified, but there's a few bunch of drivers who need to qualify in order to participate to the race. He, Connor Daly, is one of the drivers who were fighting to qualify. So they all went there to interview him and celebrate him because he made it, because an underdog made it. That's because here they celebrate the success, also for those who fight for it. Taking Formula 1 example, it's like if, I don't know, let's say Latifi had to qualify in a race in order to participate, and when he does, they all celebrate him. How are you feeling after this?
Lucky. That's it. I feel lucky, but I feel really thankful to just have a shot at it and be here, and just pumped to go racing on Sunday.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Here in the USA, the success is celebrated. Of the outsiders who managed to qualify, and of the winners who enjoy the victory lane. Just how cool is that? And we are only on Thursday. So on Friday, we go back to the racetrack for another special visit, and I hear a deafening noise from the sky. So I just look up and... I can't believe it. This is so cool. There is the flight patrol practicing for Sunday race. And that's one of the most beautiful things you could ever see. And look who's there! It's Georges, my championship rival. He also came to enjoy the race. So we stop in the front of NASCAR headquarters, where one of the managers tells us some anecdotes. And after that we continue, and I notice statues on the road. The statues of the founding fathers and famous people. So we arrive at the NASCAR Museum. It's so cool. If you come to Daytona, you should definitely go to see it. You can find everything, from old cars to dragsters, race boats, extreme speed records, vehicles with 4 engines, stuff that all in America you can imagine. It's Friday, but if they've already done qualifying, what's the day? Is NASCAR racing or not? Wait a second, but what actually is NASCAR? NASCAR is not a championship, is not a car, but it's a family-owned and operated organization that brings together various car championships. For example, the Euro NASCAR, in which I race, is part of NASCAR. You can imagine NASCAR like FIA, okay? But so, how are the championships that race in America called? Well, the main championships here in the US are three. There is the NASCAR Cup Series, which is the main class, kind of like Formula 1, which are the ones that you saw at the beginning. Then there is the Xfinity Series, which is the second class, which race on less sophisticated cars, for example like Formula 2. And then there are the trucks, which are some kind of race-preparated pickups that obviously touch 180 miles an hour, and you can imagine them like Formula 3. So today, which is Friday, the trucks race. Tomorrow, Saturday, the Xfinity races, and on Sunday there will be the big event, the Cup race. Okay, but wait a second. So, the NASCAR Cup drivers drive on Wednesday, Thursday and Sunday. And on Friday and Saturday, what do? Well, some of them relax, others maybe do other activities, while some of them, sometimes they take their private jets, go to other circuits, have a few more races in some other cars, and then come back here for the Sunday race. Guys, I swear to you, some of them actually do it. They are crazy here. So, tonight, we will see the first race of the weekend, the trucks race. And we're back here, this time in the track, because they opened the track to the fans who were able to came down from the grandstand and walk in the track of Daytona. That's incredible. I just can't believe it. And it's just Friday! So, while in the Formula 1 racing weekend, it seems like nobody cares about Formula 2 and Formula 3, well, here it's quite different. Because, look at this. Chevrolet has provided 40 Silverados, one for each driver. So the driver gets in and goes around the track to greet the fans. After that, the pastor says the prayer, we have the national anthem, that one is always there, this time played by some high school band, and then we are ready to go. Okay, they didn't even complete one lap, and they gave a caution. For those not experts, a caution is like a safety car in Formula 1. Why? Because it fell like 3 drops of rain. Didn't really 3, I counted 3. And I don't know if you know it, but they don't use rain tires here. And the whole NASCAR series, they don't race under rain conditions. And if it rains, what do? Well, you throw a caution, which is like the Formula 1 safety car, and wait. But if the rain increases, you give a red flag, and you wait for the rain to finish to restart. In the meantime, they dry the track, and you wanna know how? I'm not exaggerating, I swear. There is that track, which has an airplane turbine mounted, and just used to blow air to dry the track. Guys, I'm not exaggerating, I swear. It made the same noise as an airplane. I just have no words. Whatever, but what if the rain doesn't stop? What do? You do like that horrible 2021 Spa Formula 1 race, where they canceled the race? Nah, they just wait until the race. And if they don't race, they wait until the next day if they need to. So, we wait. Junk food as always, the rain stops, and off we go again. The Speedway. It's Saturday, I am in the paddock of Xfinity, and right here in the Xfinity paddock I had the privilege of filming one of the top cars up close. I'm talking about Sheldon Creed's car, which is sponsored by, among the others, the Whelen, which is the Euro NASCAR main partner. I filmed every detail and will make a video comparison between Euro NASCAR and American NASCAR cars, so be ready for that. But there was one thing that struck me when I interviewed the drivers on Wednesday, and it's the professionality and the charisma that they have. They're not just skilled drivers, but they are also super skilled in communications. When my colleague asked them to say hi to the drivers of the NASCAR Wheeling Euro Series, which is the NASCAR European Championship, they didn't misspell a single word. They said everything perfectly. Each one of them said something different with a different personality. Guys, I'm not used to see that. They're not professional just about driving. They're professional in everything. And this is not only here in Cup, but it's also in the Xfinity, because I got into the team truck and I found the driver himself, Sheldon Creed, who was talking to the guests and sponsors and telling how the race weekend works.
Don't wanna know what you are thinking. Don't have to hear what you believe. Don't need to read what you've been reading to know what's fake.
So I was walking around the paddock, which, okay, it's not just a paddock, it's as big as a city. And I saw all these buses. And I said, wow, what are these buses for? I mean, they bring people to the track. They're not buses, they're campers. Boy, this is shocking. I've never seen that many huge campers all at once. And the amazing thing is that everything here is big. The cars, the road, the buses, even the grass is so big. So basically the fans come here with these mega campers and experience the event for a whole week inside the circuit. And it's great to walk around the paddock. They're all sociable, they party in the evening. If you go and chat, they will offer you a drink.
Loving Daytona, drinking Grove Roots beer from Winter Haven.
But the question I ask myself though is, okay, they really stay here 7 days. So what if they want to go out one night? What if they want to go to the supermarket? Just how do they do it? Well, those who, like him, they tow the caravan, detach the caravan, and go out with the pickup. But what about the others? Listen to this, because for me, as an Italian, it's totally unbelievable. They tow the SUV with the camper. Then they detach the SUV, and they use the SUV to move around the city. That's sci-fi. And I swear, I'm not talking about 10 or 20. There are hundreds of them. Now, in this parking, if you look closely, you can see the curbs. Why? That's because we are in the road course of Daytona. For example, for the 24 hours of the sprint races or the motorbike races, they use one part of the oval and one part of the road circuit that is inside, which, for events like this, is converted into a big parking. This is all so new to me that it takes me a while to get into this perspective. I'm totally overwhelmed by information. But at this point, actually, there was one thing that I still didn't quite understand. Because looking at the weekend schedule, I was looking for the Xfinity race, but I just couldn't find it. Because in fact today, on Saturday at 5 p.m, on the schedule I saw this. Beef, it was for dinner, 300. Okay, so what is that? If I translate it into Italian, it's like, we will have beef for dinner, so... that's the invitation for the dinner. It's going to be like a mega barbecue. Wow, cool. So I go back to the track, but I don't see any barbecue. I see instead the Xfinity cars and drivers who are preparing for the race with the usual ceremony on the Silverado.
Yeah! This is what we're at, baby! Where else do you want to be in life? But right here, right now! Let's go!
But why did they invite me to a barbecue if these guys are preparing for a race? So I asked someone to explain me, and here is the thing. Beef It Was For Dinner is the title sponsor of the race, 300, which stands for 300 miles. And Beef It Was For Dinner is a campaign launched in 1992 which promotes the consumption of beef, which is something we're not used to see in Europe. And the sponsorships in NASCAR are so important that the speakers, every time they mention the race, they must mention the title sponsor as well. So, imagine translating it into your language. I did it in Italian, it sounds quite funny. Charles Leclerc wins the Beef It Was For Dinner Italian Formula 1 Grand Prix. It sounds crazy, but the cool thing is that this, in America, works like charm. This race is even more important than the trucks. Tens of thousands of spectators in the stands. And during the national anthem, the whole racetrack stops. Everybody with the hand on the heart, no one is moving.
Sai che mi sono reso conto che ero l'unico che non stava con la mano sul cuore? Anche tutti i fotografi si sono fermati.
A un certo punto ti guardi in giro e dici cazzo il cappello, aspetta. Ma non la mano su, aspetta. È una roba incredibile.
Ma io facevo il video, ma anche tutti gli altri piani, tutti fermi.
È qualcosa di incredibile. È qualcosa di incredibile, ragazzi. Io ho vissuto sulla propria pelle, è completamente diverso.
Mamma mia.
This is how we enjoyed the Xfinity race. Well, actually, sorry, the Biffits was for dinner 300 race. Crazy pit stop, barrels, overtaking, that's so cool. And at this point you might be thinking, I've seen so many crazy things for me as an Italian, there can't be any more, right? Well, you haven't seen Sunday yet. But more importantly, you haven't seen New Smyrna yet. New what? So, when you have an event that big like Daytona 500, hundreds of thousands of people come here. So what do? All the other neighboring racetracks create side races. For example, in New Smyrna, which is a half an hour drive from here, there is another oval, where on all day during this week, they hold races with any kind of car. And I'm talking about a tiny oval, okay? Like half a mile long, so I'm expecting to find crappy racing with crappy cars, right? I can't believe it. At this oval here, as big as a supermarket parking, on Saturday night, they have races with 700 horsepower cars doing 200 kilometers an hour. Can you believe it? The people come here, pay the tickets, and enjoy the race. Of course, here as well, it's making big style with fireworks, the victory lane, TV, interviews. Let's make it simple. Motorsports in the USA, it's another planet. And I'm definitely going to make another video soon. Okay, take all you've seen so far. Did it seem like a lot? You haven't seen anything yet.
She ain't mine, but she look fine. Gonna take some time, gonna make her mine, gonna make her mine.
200,000 people, 160,000 in the grandstands and 40,000 in the paddock. We are just in the morning and most have yet to arrive, and it's already an incredible show. The cars have already been lined up on the starting grid since the morning, while the people in the grandstands who purchased the special passes have invaded the track, and the race is still 4 hours away. I had it in front of me for 5 days, but I've never been in it, so today is the day. In the USA, the stadiums and grandstands are more than just seats, because inside them there is a whole world to discover. Restaurants, bars, stores, billboards with the nose of a space shuttle pasted on it. No matter what level you're on, you will always find a nearby place to eat or drink. And it's only by climbing to the top that I realized the true size of this structure. One of the main impressive things is that anywhere you are, in the grandstand, in a paddock or outside the stadium, there are speakers that let you hear what's happening. They are everywhere, even inside the toilets. Meanwhile, on the lawn, a giant stage appears out of nowhere, and the actual concert begins. Tens of thousands of people in the lawn, plus another 100,000 in the stands. And that's just the beginning. If you thought the Silverado ride on the Xfinity was something big, here obviously it gets even bigger. Another huge stage appears out of nowhere, where they set up a mega catwalk and introduce the drivers one by one amid fireworks and special effects. Everyone gets on the Silverado and begin the lap of honor. The starting grid gets populated and we approach the race. The concert is over, the drivers introduced, and within minutes the concert stage closes like a Transformers and leaves, the catwalk disappears, and the whole stadium stops. Not a fly flies. Hand on chest, national anthem. This was one of the strongest emotions of my life. They perfectly synchronized the passage of the planes with the end of the anthem. I am speechless. The aerobatic patrol show is coordinated by the pilots in the air, aboard the planes, and by the pilots on the ground, on top of the spotter tower. I met them this morning in the press room and they told me how it works. But the thing is that they're not just pilots, they are heroes who are also being celebrated and presented one by one on the big screens. And finally, here we go! The most important race in NASCAR history is about to begin. A single race worth the name printed into the asphalt on Daytona Walk of Fame. A race that 40 drivers run, but only one can win. 200 laps, 500 miles, 4 long, exhausting hours of racing. If 20 cars were loud, you have no idea how loud are 40 cars. The ground shakes underfoot. Lap 3 of the race. Thousands of hands go up on the sky, showing the number 3. That's the number of Dale Earnhardt, a NASCAR legend who died right here at Daytona in a tragic accident. That was a tragedy similar to that of Ayrton Senna. And traditionally, the people here remember him this way. What strikes me the most is how from every point in the grandstands you can see the entire circuit. It's something that doesn't happen in Formula One.
You know, the ovals really provide a chance for a festival experience and for fans to see the cars on track. You know, everything's right in front of you and you can find your favorite driver whenever you want. I think that NASCAR Formula, they have always wanted it to be about the people and not about the technology. It doesn't mean that the factories are not equivalent to Formula One factories, and I've had this experience with Jenson Button recently. He's like, this is as elaborate and as nice as any Formula One factory that I've ever been in. So, although it may look different on television, you know, the technology is truly there and it's so vital to the success of any team.
This was Jimmy Johnson, 7-time NASCAR champion. And to give you a sense of how much NASCAR engages the public, I discovered another incredible thing. I was seeing a lot of people with radios in their hands and headphones on, and I just wonder why. Okay, listen to this. These are radios that they rent, which are tuned to the team's frequencies, and anyone who picks that radio can listen in real time to the radio communications between the driver and the spotter. The glimpse is incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen 160,000 people, grandstand totally sold out. This race is 200 laps long, and we expect 6 to 7 pit stops per car. 200 laps though are quite boring to watch, right? So how can you make them more entertaining? That's simple. You create a race within the race. That's called stages. At the end of lap 65, they will show the checker flag and they throw a caution. So the top 10 drivers will score some points. But the drivers actually don't stop, they continue behind the safety car and they start again. Second stage, second checker flag, another points. And then the final rush, which will decide the winner. This way, the whole race is entertaining and it's more spectacular.
What's your job? Rear tire changer on the number 47 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
So you change tires all year?
Absolutely.
I never thought that changing tires was a full-time job. I thought that you were mechanics and then during the weekend you change tires.
No, so actually we're athletes, so most of us aren't mechanics. We change tires, we practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we go Fridays and Saturdays off.
Wow.
And we go to the racetrack on Sunday, do our deal, and then we fly back home.
So you do physical training also to be fit to change tires?
Yeah, we each have a workout slot during the day. So we're doing speed and agility, always doing something to better our physique and our athletic ability.
That's insane. Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Do you remember when I said the mechanics are professional athletes? Here's explained. They train every day and they practice tire changing. Just that. What at the beginning I mistakenly thought it was just going around a circle all the time actually turned out to be an incredibly more complex and fascinating world.
But when you put 40 out there and you have to work this draft, that's where the game changes.
Is although we're on an oval, we're on the edge of traction and sliding the car the entire time. Drive in a slide at 200 miles an hour lap after lap is just a ton of fun.
I just can't imagine what it's like to race for 4 hours here, constantly at 300 kilometers an hour on the edge of losing grip, pushing each other and with opponents doing everything they can to throw you off balance and run you into the wall. It's something beyond my imagination. And what's even more impressive is that the real suffering comes in the last lap. Because so far, everyone has been quiet. You know, there are the stages, important points, and the race is long. But in the final laps, the real carnage begins. In NASCAR, if you don't do a clearly intentional maneuver, in case of crash there are no penalties. If you crash into another driver, well, you will settle the score yourself between drivers. And so it is. Massive crash, decimated group, caution, extra time, restart. More crash, more caution, more extra time, another restart, another crash, another caution, another restart. It's a massacre. Very few are left now. All the strategies and schemes are gone until the final lap, final sprint. After more than 200 laps, 4 hours of racing, we finally have the winner. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a name that will be forever etched in the history of Daytona 500 Walk of Fame. And at this point I was wondering, where is the podium? Well, you know what? In NASCAR there is no podium, because there is only one winner. And it's only one who can have the honor of raising the cup to the sky and be celebrated. All the other ones for today are just losers. Watching the Daytona 500 with my own eyes was an incredible thrill. That's beyond my imagination. Because here in America they celebrate success. They celebrate the show and they place an immense value on people. On those who watch the races and on those who make the races possible. In these respects, we really have so much to learn from them.